Should we be looking into Vandy a little bit more, or should we be wondering about Virginia Tech? And how about some of these other teams? Miami, Boston College, Georgia Tech. How much should we be, after 1 week of football here, vesting our interests as opposed to overreacting or underreacting?
I've learned over the years, who knows what the right answer is. I feel like over the years, I give it 2 or 3 weeks to try to get a really good vibe on who these teams are. I think what Vandy did, first of all, they have a quarterback. When was the last time Vandy had a quarterback with some swagger like that? That kid is a player. I mean, unbelievable making plays. And his story is fascinating, too, because he's a bit undersized, so he wasn't heavily recruited. And Jerry Kill brings him over from New Mexico State. I mean, that to me was pretty cool to see that. But Vandy looked different, didn't they? I mean, they looked athletic. They were flying around. Clark Lee. A lot of people don't know Clark Lee, and he was a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame and did a great job. He actually played at Vandy, got the opportunity to leave Notre Dame to go back to Vandy, and he's kind of slowly but surely building that brand back up. And it's so tough to do, as we all know, in the SEC. So that was a fun one. But man, there's so much. USC, are you kidding me with Miller Moss and what he did against LSU? I thought Nussmeier looked great. I thought the defense from both those teams played much, much better. I think Cam Ward was probably one of the biggest stories of the entire weekend. Who else stood out? Who else did you throw out there?
Boston College, Castellanos last night. I think what Billy O's doing, I don't think any of us really understood what was possible for them. I think they're pitching the idea that, hey, Boston College could be a team, especially up there in New England. A team that BC's loved up there, beloved up there.
Yeah, people love BC, and it's really the only college football team in the New England region that's big time D1 like this.
You guys love winners up there too.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Patriots looking like what they're going to be, like if BC goes, the city and the state and the region, New England, will get behind Boston College. Like when Matt Ryan, that was the last time. Boston College was really, really good. Those games were packed to the brim. People loved the Eagles, and since then it hasn't really been the same. But yeah, if Billy O and Castellanos go, there's a chance that the BC Eagles are the hottest football ticket in town. Legit.
But it's like they look different. There's a lot of teams that just look different. And I think this is that transfer portal thing. Now Joe Aller, obviously different story, but in some position it's like teams can really flip. I think a couple big decisions. Now, is it sustainable?
How about the reminder of Georgia?
Yes. Yeah.
Holy cow. I mean, and you guys can kick Dabo right now, and I'm not saying you guys, but the nation can have fun with him. He doesn't do NIL. Bottom line, they still have a defense. I mean, they still have NFL players at the line of scrimmage on the defensive side. They have Barrett Carter. They're a pretty good team. I mean, I think when the dust settles at the end of the year, I think we'll see that Clemson's a pretty good football team, but Georgia just pounded them.
Yeah.
And they got the quarterback in Carson Beck. They just reload with the skill spots, hit the portal a little bit at receiver. Defense is just nasty. I mean, because Georgia played somebody, I feel like we're back to, okay, there's Georgia, and we're going to find out who else wants to be invited to play up there with Georgia after 1 week. So a long way to go. Bama, Kalen DeBoer, I know they didn't play anybody. We'll find out a little bit more against USF. But just the operation of it, the execution, I feel like they looked really good. So we had 5 or 6 behemoth college football games, and then we had a lot of other games that, kind of went the way you expected them to go. So I always reserve judgment. I like to get to that 3rd or 4th week, and then you really get the conference play. I think you have a much better idea of what's going on.
Happy we got to do picks. That's a lot of fun. Yeah. We have no idea what the hell's going out on the field. I like that Nick Saban addressed that beforehand. Like, I'm shooting in the blind here. All right? I don't know any of this. And I'm appreciative of the fans that get pissed off at us for not picking their team in like week 1. But it's like, I'm also appreciative of the fact that some of these teams that I didn't think have it. This is going to be an incredible year. Speaking of one of those, AJ has a question for you, Herbie.
Yeah, Kirk, what did you learn from Ohio State? Obviously beating Akron, 52-6, something like that, I believe. Jeremiah Smith, young freshman receiver, obviously, I think, as advertised, he's unbelievable. But I think Will Howard, I was impressed by his arm and how he can move around once he's kind of settled into the game. But did we learn anything about this team? I came away very excited about the defense, Kirk. No joke.
Money well spent.
That's what I was going to ask, AJ. That's what I was going to ask you. I mean,
that's all I cared about was how they were, I think Caleb Downs missed a tackle early. I'm like, I don't care, man. He had the right leverage. He was taking his shot. I just like how they're flying around. I think that's kind of what it's going to be this year. So, what did you learn?
That's exactly what I took away. And I think there's, just because I've seen Will Howard play a lot of football, I think Ohio State fans are going to be surprised because he's so big. They didn't realize he could move. He could be part of the run game. You get to a 3rd and 3, you can insert him in there and make the defense have to count for another gap, which I don't think people realize with a Chip Kelly offense. That's going to be a factor. They're going to be physical. The offensive line is going to need time to kind of grow together. Jeremiah Smith is holy cow good. I mean, I can't wait to see what he's going to do with Emeka and the rest of the group that they have there. The other thing that I think stood out, regardless of who they played, and you're really not going to know until they take their trip out to Eugene, is the defense. Like you said, that defensive line, AJ, is so good. The linebackers, there's so much experience there. Caleb Downs is really the one guy that they brought in. Everybody talks about how we talked about this last week, how they spent all this money on the portal. They didn't spend a lot of money other than on Caleb Downs on that defense, other than to keep guys there, but they didn't go out and get guys. So these guys know this system. They know it very, very well now that they've been around it a little bit. Jim Knowles loves to get creative. So you got a veteran defense. So what most of the attention is going to go on Will Howard and what's going on with Chip Kelly and all the offense. To me, Ohio State is going to be a tough out because of what they're going to be doing on that side of the football.
Let's talk about a team that might be filled with some dogs. Head coach getting into it a little bit, walking into the stadium. Go ahead, Con Man.
I mean, those people tweeting about Ben, how you feel now. Guy had cancer and survived, so you're even a bigger asshole. But yeah, Herbie, Notre Dame, there's a video of Marcus Freeman kind of getting the boys going before the game. How do you feel about their performance? Obviously on offense, kind of took a little while to figure it out, but that seems to be something that they're going to continue to grow with the young offensive line in Riley Leonard. But is this the year for Notre Dame? Are we looking at a possible 5 seed because that's as high as they can go without the conference?
Dude, I appreciate you going there because, man, I walked out of there. I'm glad you brought him up. I forgot to bring him up. I love that. I love that.
Me too.
AJ knows him better than anybody. Played with James Laurinaitis, part of the Ohio State linebacking crew that was fantastic. Wayne Warrior. But he is an absolute – I don't know if there's another coach that relates to the players better, genuinely, authentically, than Marcus Freeman. And, he's got Jim Tressel, and his style and playing for him. He even told me before the game, hey, a punt's okay. We're breaking in a freshman left tackle. We've got some new people up there. And then he's like, look at right in the fourth quarter. I told you, like he told his guys, we're going to find a way to win this thing in the fourth quarter. They're only going to get better with Riley Leonard at quarterback. And that offensive line is so young when they come together. I like the skill when they just, how when you look at when a team comes on the field, Pat, you're big on that. Like, wow, TCU, they're big. Like big. Notre Dame, through recruiting, through the portal, they look so different than where they were a few years ago. They used to always have big linemen, big tight ends, big D linemen, big linebackers, and their skill, it just looks different. They're long, they're bouncing, athletic guys. You look at their schedule, it's probably going to be favored in every game they play. The game at the end of the year, all of a sudden with USC at the LA Coliseum, interesting game to remember and to put on the back of your mind. But Notre Dame is, I think they're mature. They got a great a group together. I think they're a team that's going to be in the playoff without a doubt. It's just a matter of how much better can they get and can they stay healthy? Because I don't know what kind of depth they have right now.
Massive win in College Station in front of that crowd, obviously showing up, big
no matter
lights,
what.
Everything.
Yep.
That's a huge win. However it pans out. Was he like that as a player, AJ? And he wasn't like this last year, right?
I don't know. Was he that way? Was he that way as a player?
He's pretty reserved. He was a freshman my senior year, but Marcus was pretty reserved. But I mean, I watched him in high school. As Kirk said, he's a Wayne Warrior. I watched Marcus scored 6 touchdowns and punt and kick and return kickoffs and do everything. So yeah, he was all over the place. He's a monster. But yeah, getting that's authentic. That's not like a thing. So no one told him, hey, go pump the boys up.
Well, it's like he's comfortable being himself now, it seems. Like that job is not the easiest role. Like being a Notre Dame head coach, that is not an easy, especially after what last year we go up there and I experience it for the first time. And I'm talking to Pete Bavacqua, who's the athletic director, and getting a tour of the history and what it is and where his office is and why his office is located where his office is in Notre Dame and everything it is. That's not an easy gig, being a Notre Dame head coach. So
that's your first head job? You're the head coach at Notre Dame.
Couldn't even fathom the pressure.
That's as tough an ask in the college game as there is. But I'll tell you what's great is he's being himself, like you said. But when you talk to him, I hopefully we do a Notre Dame game day because I'd love for you two to hang out. You talk to him, you become a bigger fan.
Oh, yeah.
Way bigger fan. I mean, he is as good of a guy as there is, and it's no wonder they're recruiting well. The program's doing this with him. I mean, they're just beginning, in my opinion, of where they're going with him as a head coach.
Shane Gillis said he would like us to refer to them as tight end university a little bit more.
They're not, though.
Who is?
Iowa is, period.
Go ahead. He said, now start listing them off. This is at a bar in College Station that we paid $400 for to let nobody in so we can have one beer with each other without,
Sure.
And then kind of go through there. He goes, list them off.
Yeah, Anthony Fasano, Kyle Rudolph. I mean, Iowa's got
Eifert, and then I guess there's a guy now that they got, some Mitchell Evans.
Mitchell Evans
who got hurt last year. He goes, best tight end in the country, dude. Last year gets hurt. Everybody forgets he exists.
I mean, are we talking about guys being good in college, or are we talking about guys who go on to be like all pros in the NFL? Because I think that's, they're developed at the college level.
So Shane was taking a direct shot at Iowa.
Sounds like it.
Okay. All right. Anyways, Notre Dame tight end university.
Hey. I will put some points on the board, all right?
Goddamn right. Goddamn right.
There we go.
Hey, who was not on the sideline?
You guys are the ones that do that. I don't.
Whoa. Kirk's back next week. Let's go. Kirk's back
big
next
one,
week.
too.
Can't wait to watch. And obviously that team could. Why not?
Why not?
Why not Iowa?
Why not?
Let's talk about another team we're saying why not to. And you bring up Marcus Freeman. I didn't see any videos from the locker room while he was giving a speech afterwards, but I do know that a very Miami thing happened this past weekend where there was a recording live of the coach afterwards talking his shit in Cristobal, who has taken it on the shins a lot since he decided to run the ball instead of kneel it out. So I'm assuming he's pumped about it. D-Butt has a question for you about the state of the U.
Absolutely. If you're talking about tight ends going on to be great in the NFL, tight end U is probably University of Miami for sure. But obviously, Cam Ward, he come in as advertised. I mean, just composed, just the aura around him. The hype is real down in South Florida. You mentioned it earlier, we've been waiting for a quarterback for a long, long time. But what's the expectation, the outlook? I know you said you like to kind of wait a few weeks. But after seeing them going into the swamp, hostile environment, obviously not much expectation from the Gators this year. But what do you see around Cam Ward and that roster and why they can make a run this year?
So we're going huh? Okay. I didn't know you kicking UConn.
He does this.
I thought Huskies were Huskies are we in hoops.
Oh, wait, hey, I'm a Husky through and through, but I grew up.
All right.
He does this.
Especially in basketball, yes.
He's got a lot of teams.
Hey, the thing with the video, come on. The only thing I feel like can slow Miami down right now is themselves. Just don't have that guy or whoever's in the background. You don't want that. I mean, coach is up there. He's saying what's up and basically saying what he thinks about his critics and the Gators. And we got somebody back there filming. Really? I mean, we can't do that. This team, hopefully that gets nipped in the bud. I think Mario will probably be more offended than anybody. But this team seems to have, when Miami, it's always about, the swag's back. I didn't feel that at all. I felt like the sledgehammer is back. I just felt like they went out there and whipped ass. It wasn't about talking trash. It was now maybe the post game talking to the recruits. I saw that, but during the game, I just felt like they were just beating Florida up and enjoying it. That's kind of a characteristic of Mario Cristobal. So remember, it used to be about the turnover chain and whatever else they're doing. It just seemed like they were playing old-fashioned football and just beating up on an opponent. And I find that refreshing. I hope they stay in that space as they get all the pats on the back and told how wonderful they are. I hope they'll just stay angry. If they stay angry with Cam Ward, and by the way, Damian Martinez has as much to do with as anything. Let's not forget having him back there with Cam Ward. But if they can stay angry and not start worrying about all this stuff, they will be a blast to watch this year.
Cam Ward being that veteran, the guy he is, I think is a huge asset to the entire program.
Totally.
Cristobal had to be so happy whenever, obviously, transfer portal happens. Then he gets him. Then he sees the way he operates. He's got to be like, holy shit, I've been waiting. This is it now. This is the moment. I hope they go on a run because that ACC, pretty wide open.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go back.
Wide open.
Pretty wide open. Let's go back to the Big Ten. Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, Kirk, do you think Oregon is one of those teams you were talking about where it's like, hey, reserve judgment for a couple weeks with Dylan Gabriel just getting there? Or do you think after watching this first week in the Big Ten, teams like Penn State and USC might be a little bit closer to the Ohio State and Oregon's in the conference?
I look at Oregon, it's a team that I picked preseason to win it all. And when I talk to Coach Saban about it and others, a lot of people are worried about how Oregon is going to stack up throughout the entire season of the Big Ten physically, again, at the line of scrimmage. They know about Dylan and they know about the receivers and all that. But can they week in and week out deal with the physicality? I think they can. And I think getting off to a slow start, I think sometimes actually can help you. I have NC State this week. They didn't look really good against Western Carolina. And everyone's like, oh, Tennessee's going to kill them. Like, those are the games I'd be careful with. Don't just assume because a team looks okay against a lesser opponent that's who they are. I think sometimes it shows maybe that they need to not come down to an opponent. But I think I'm not questioning Oregon. I'm more impressed with USC. USC's schedule, if it's not the toughest in the country, think about they joined the Big Ten, and then for fun, they throw LSU at the beginning and Notre Dame at the end, on top of being in the Big Ten with the travel and everything that they have to do with. So I think USC stock up, Penn State stock up, reserving judgment on who this Oregon team really is until they play an opponent that we can actually judge them off how good they might be.
Yeah, it might take them a little bit to find their groove too. Teams do that. That happens. Look at Alabama last year with Jalen and Milroe at the beginning of the season versus the end of the season. Could happen with Oregon, especially with Dylan Gabriel. Go ahead, pal.
Do you see Miller Moss bringing a little bit of juice on that game? I didn't know he had that in him.
Santa Monica kid too. He did an interview afterwards. I listened to him talk. Love this dude.
Yeah.
Love everything
Very
about
impressed.
him. Yeah, and
that was really cool to see. He was bringing some fire. And how about them? Lincoln Riley reminded America, especially Paul Feinbaum, who I guess has taken some shots on him. He reminded America he's a pretty good coach. And I'll say this, Caleb Williams is awesome. Good luck in Chicago. Going to do great things. But a coach likes to call plays, to sequence plays, because he knows what his quarterback's going to do. And because Caleb and the theatrics and the ability to make plays, and it was great, it's so tough on a play caller to try to get into a rhythm when Caleb is doing some magic. With Miller Moss, it's like, okay, we're going to run the counter. We're going to set that play action. We're going to run counter. We're going to hit that. It pieces together. And I think it was a reminder of how good Lincoln Riley is with a quarterback like Miller Moss. And that's something to really watch as this season progresses, is that relationship with the headphones, with Lincoln Riley, Miller Moss, and what a catch, and the receivers and the skill that they have to work with. That's insane by Hudson. That's catch of the year.
Yeah, that's one of. There's 5 of them in week 1. I think it's going to happen every single week in this entire thing. And what you're referring to is very similar to the situation in Green Bay whenever Aaron left, and then Jordan
Great
Love's
point.
running LaFleur's offense. LaFleur wouldn't say it publicly,
100%.
but everybody was like, now LaFleur's offense is system, as opposed to Aaron making every
improvising, making plays,
every play better
Aaron.
almost. Caleb was doing, I'll make every play better, but then it's also. You miss out on the little moves in chess that you're kind of doing.
Yep.
Just 2 different styles. Would always want a superstar.
Yep.
Always would want a superstar.